Magic.
Hello, and welcome back to the New Old Furry Podcast. As always, I'm Kit, and we've got Rick over there somewhere. Say hi, Rick.
I'm hiding. No one can see me.
You're not hiding very well. The sound of clinking is the thing.
Details.
And before we get into it, just because we want to have a weird one today, I need to point out that these podcasts are not for, a younger audience. So if you are under the age of 18, get the fuck out, please.
He couldn't even get through the disclaimer without cussing. And I feel, on this episode in particular, that's appropriate. I'd also like to say here, happy birthday to the New Old Furry Podcast. Go us! 12 episodes with only 1 month missed. Go us! Woo!
Wow, your wee suddenly got cut off.
That's appropriate.
A little bit.
Once again, to those of you who haven't watched the previous episodes, watch episode number 1, Technology Hates Us.
A little bit. It is very much a running thing throughout this entire life.
We have 12 episodes up now. How many of them have we made it 10 to 15 minutes in just to realize the recording got deleted or stopped recording or we weren't recording?
The answer is yes. The number of times we've had to re-record these is just a little bit mind-boggling.
We're not going to count the one where we fully had to re-record the entire episode because that was entirely my fault. I'm willing to accept that.
I'm not counting the Argyle one. However, before we bury the schlong that is our topic in random conversation about technology, today we're going to be talking about what happens when your eyes are too big for your butthole.
It happens more often than people think.
It really does, and it's a weird phenomenon, but it's a thing, and we're kind of here in this particular episode to give you guys some advice or help you out if you are new to the whole sex toy thing and trying to figure out what is the best sex toy to start with. And realistically, it's going to be different for everybody, but we can very easily give you some pointers.
I disagree with you, sir. It is not different for everyone because the first sex toy you should start with for everyone, bar none, is your hand.
Some people don't like the idea of shoving fingers in their ass.
And that's perfectly fine. What is the difference between shoving fingers up into your ass and shoving molded silicone or molten metal or shaped glass or any of the other materials they use to make sex toys?
The phrase shit happens, and some people have a problem with germs.
Actually, that's an excellent point right there.
Uh-huh.
First thing you should buy is a douching kit.
Yes! That's actually the best advice we can give is before you think about, shoving anything up your butt, learn how to douche, and then go get yourself a douche, and try it out. And then realize this is something you are going to need to do, unless, of course, you are the type of person that goes to a gay bar and orders a mudslide.
Mike at MGTV, hey, hit us up. We will totally support your channel on this podcast.
Oh my god. Did you have to?
I'd like to point out I said his name wrong too, so...
Yeah, a little bit.
I am on brand.
Not so much on brand as not sponsored.
Correct.
We represent the legally distinct but similar to the Lollipop Guild.
That is exactly correct. Technically, what I said is not what his YouTube channel is at all. You may want to move the @ to somewhere else, but I mean, a little
bit.
Details.
Anyways, so we have some stories to share and some advice to give.
I would like to give a slight disclaimer here.
Yes?
Both myself and Kit here are assigned male at birth,
Yep.
we do not have all of the genitalia on the spectrum.
Uh, I could make a statement that I do have all of the genitalia on the spectrum, just some of mine are silicone, so I mean I do own a crotch, it's over there on the shelf.
I'd like to point out the silence everyone has heard from me while he made that statement is me pinching the bridge of my nose.
Oh, but no, he is right. We can't necessarily speak for the female persuasion here, but we can talk about those of us who, eh, well, have a schlong.
That's true too. But to be fair, a great many females have a schlong as well. It just happens to be made of silicone and sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Now, there's also the female with a schlong who just hasn't gone through all of the transition yet. I mean,
Technically correct.
we're being inclusive here.
But I think we're being inclusive, but I feel like you're being dismissive of them. And it's one of those, I don't mean to be, but I feel like you have something against me trying to be inclusive.
Huh?
I don't know.
Weird. Nah,
Yeah,
when it comes down to it, it really doesn't matter what your giggly bits look like. Most of what we're going to be talking about is anal, and everybody's got a butthole.
I'm honestly thinking about if wh- what we are about to talk about. I'm honestly thinking through it, and it's one of those. No, this is good advice for anyone. Anyone who
Yeah,
is interested in anal should give this a listen. If you happen to be interested in anal with a silicone molded sculpture that you can buy from
any of several
ill
places. Our favorites being things like Wandering
ill
Bard.
in, ill-intentioned giant fire lizards,
Oh God.
not sponsored.
I mean, seriously, if they want to, Wandering Bard, please sponsor us. I like your toys.
I will straight up say, Wandering Bard, we will give you free promos until you sponsor us. If you want to sponsor us, we will give you good promos.
Seriously.
Wandering Bard, top shelf, good stuff.
Oh God, yes. If you ever get the chance and have the cash, go check them out. And personally, I would suggest a Rex.
Everybody has their own preferences. Don't try and pressure them into certain things.
True. In my case, it's I don't mind a good knot from time to time. But like I said, if you do have the cash, go check them out. My preference is the Rex, but they actually have a lot of really good toys.
I can speak quite highly of the Displacer Beast. Very nice.
Uh, I've actually been looking into that one myself. It
It's
feels
pretty nice. I
it
highly
feels
suggest
like it would feel a little bit nipply.
it's quite nice. I do recommend it. And here's the first piece of advice we will give you. If you have your own sex toys, if you're going to loan them out to other people, make sure they're well cleaned both before and after.
Uh, actually, my personal thing is if you're going to loan sex toys to people, don't.
That is the better advice, not the
Yeah, not gonna lie, that's the better advice. Uh, I can understand if you have a partner, somebody you are, uh, not squeamish about, you know, sharing that sort of thing with. Don't share dicks with friends. It gets messy in weird ways.
As I said, make sure it is well cleaned before and after. And there's an excellent point there, Kit. How would you clean your dicks?
It depends on what it's made of, but all the ones I have, I just flat out boil them.
Okay, that's a bold statement.
I make
Can
sure
you
that the
go ahead and
stuff
tell
that
us?
I make sure
Can you
that
go?
the stuff that I have mine made of is capable of withstanding very, very high temperatures. I boil them very specifically because most bacteria cannot actually withstand being boiled. For the ones that can, I also have antibacterial soap that I use after boiling them. After they've cooled down, too, I should point that out. Don't add soap to a scalding hot dick.
No, no, just don't. Now, as far as the materials that your dicks are made out of, or your pussies, because you've already said you have several pussies. What materials would you suggest people look for? Because material is a very important thing when looking for a sex toy.
Personally, high grade silicone is what I typically go for. There are things out there like cyberskin, for example. Don't, if you're looking into that, just don't. There are thousands of types, and they're very, very, very good at irritating skin if you don't know exactly what to look for. That would be more of a you've been doing this for a while kind of thing. Standard for most sex toys nowadays is silicone, which is fairly sturdy when it comes to high heat. Just don't store them together; they will melt to each other.
That is a term called what the hell's the actual term for it? It's leaching. Leaching is the term.
Leeching is the term, and the response I get from a lot of new people who are into just getting into the whole sex toy thing, who decide we're just gonna put all of the toys that we have in a box, and then
No,
question later why they have a brick of silicone that vaguely looks like it might have been dick shaped at one point.
no, 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 no. It has the shape of dicks in it. What it is shaped like is the box.
Yeah, silicone will react to itself chemically or react to different forms of itself chemically. And if you have two different sex toys, let's say you have one that is purple and one that is a slightly different shade of purple, or was made in a slightly different way, or has a little bit more or less dust on it than the other one, it's gonna fuse to whatever other form of silicone it touches.
It's
So
called leaching. You can Google it, and most likely what's going to pop up is trying to store gasoline in a plastic. It's the same process. It eats itself
yeah.
and reforms itself into a goo, and it is not useful for anything at that point.
I mean, I think it would be useful at some point for somebody who's really, really into, the whole latex transformation fetish, but doesn't want to invest in latex yet.
You leave Puro out of this fucking conversation, sir.
Oh, but I kind of want a nice dick of Puro. Puro, Puro, whatever, however you pronounce it.
It
They need
depends on who you go to.
they need to model a cock after him because that boy is just snuggly.
They do. It's called a plastic bag full of just silicone gel.
You know what I mean, you dick.
I know what you mean, but I'm going to continuously be your foil on these podcasts.
I'm well aware. Don't make me roll you up around food.
That's a statement. Anyway,
Wait,
what I would.
wait, hold on. No, that statement reminds me of another fucking bit of advice.
Oh,
People, if you are looking into sex toys, especially anal sex toys for any reason, if you are considering using any variation of food, don't. For Christ fucking sakes, an eggplant doesn't make a good dildo, neither does a carrot, neither does a pickle.
the pickle in particular.
I have literally seen a pickle in a condom, and it's not something that you want to try to use.
If you're listening to this podcast, hop onto Kit's YouTube channel and look up some of his early videos. There is literally
Literally, literally
pickle in a
type
condom.
in, literally type in Kitthesoulless pickle in a condom on YouTube, and you'll understand what I mean.
It happened. I would like to expand this to it does not matter if it is anal or vaginal sex that you are aiming for, or even dick sex you're aiming for. Don't fuck food.
It never ends well. The best case scenario is you're gonna eventually end up with a yeast infection. Worst case scenario is people have died from this, and I really wish that was a joke. There was a
No, they
case about a decade ago, I think, or a little under a decade ago, where a woman was found dead in her apartment by her lover. It turned out, when she was found, she had a cucumber almost fully inserted into her crotch, And it turned out what had happened was she had created a small cut on the inside of her, on the inside of her pussy, and every repeated insertion of the vegetable in question essentially pumped oxygen or air into the cut and created an embolism.
This is this is actually a strangely good segue into another piece of advice for
God damn it.
when you are first starting out with these things. Listen to your body.
Oh god,
It
yeah.
does not matter where you are trying to shove something. If you feel generally a sharp pain, definitely stop. If you feel a dull pain, slow down. If it dissipates, you should generally be okay to continue, but just take your time with it. Speed
Yeah.
is not your friend at the beginning.
Just
Don't jump
remember,
to
folks,
it,
speed is not key.
and learn to identify the difference between a sharp pain and a dull ache. A sharp
Yep.
pain means you have torn something, which is your big sign to stop.
Yeah, and for those of you who might be using a lidocaine form of lube,
Oh,
do
that's
yourself a
actually an excellent
favor.
point.
Do yourself a favor. You might not feel the pain. If you feel a sudden pressure or pop sort of sensation, stop. And if you see blood, fucking stop!
These are I didn't even think about the lidocaine. You are absolutely correct because that is very common for anything that is labeled as an anal lube. Anything labeled as an anal lube just means it has lidocaine in it.
Give me a second. Anal ease, first ingredient lidocaine. Literally holding a tube of it in my hand.
I, I wish I could say I was surprised.
You know me. You know I quite obviously ram things up my ass from time to time.
Yes, I'm aware. It
Oh,
doesn't change the fact that your lube is literally within arm's reach of while we are recording a session.
yeah, all 4 bottles of it. The fact that he's gone silent and can't make a statement to that.
I I would like to point out, I have been to Kit's house. I know where he records these sessions.
Yep.
I have slept in that chair. This is concerning information to me.
No, I don't do that. Well,
Yeah,
not
try and lie to
not
me.
directly on the chair. I usually put a towel down. And now the people who watch my live streams will not be able to unthink that. Either way, um, that's actually another thing though. And this is going in more into the in and out and in and out. Hold on, sorry, my brain died just a second there. When you
I,
are
I,
trying to find your first sex toy, do not just buy what looks good. The three
that is part
things
of it.
the three
But yes,
things
go
you
ahead.
want to make sure that you can see on the site that you are buying from, if you are buying from a website, are a sizing chart,
Hmm.
a explanation of the firmness levels that they have as options, and a visual representation of this toy. Never buy a dick that you haven't seen before.
Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and straight up say it is. You really want all three of those.
Yeah,
Missing any one of those leads to some awkward situations.
like buying a sex toy, your first sex toy, and realizing it is the size of your head. Yes, we know somebody who has done this. And no, it's not one of us.
Yeah, because I understand to read the sizing chart and understand that 8 inches as diameter does not mean 8 inches circumference. Even 8 inches circumference is pretty fucking big.
Oh god, yeah. uh the other thing about that is I know there are some sites that will do something like hold up a or put a soda can next to the toy in question. Two things. First off, if that toy crests the top of that can and you're buying your first dick, look
You, you're
elsewhere.
go,
It might look pretty, but you're
you're
gonna
going big.
break something.
You're going big there. How do I know this? I did it.
Oh god, yeah.
Allow me to straight up say, the first toy I ever bought, I still can't take the whole thing.
God damn.
Actually, I probably could at this point. It's just one of those. I. It's bigger than my eyes thought it was.
Yeah.
Buy yourself a cloth tape measure and actually measure out the sizes, because generally, even if they don't have a visual representation, they have the actual sizes in inches or millimeters, depending on where you're buying it from. Buy yourself a cloth tape measure and actually measure out how big around that would be as a circle.
Yeah. Uh, or, you could also have the issue that I had with the first dick that I bought instead of, hand making. Long story and for
Oh,
probably another time. But actually
it's
no,
a good story.
we can
It's a good
probably
story.
weasel that one in somewhere in here. We could probably lube it up and jam it in somewhere. Uh but
No,
no,
you can't, because I know the ending of this story.
I mean, I did, but you understand why we can't do it that way again. Again.
It, it, it's perfectly okay. You could go ahead and tell your issue with your first bot toy. I'll tell mine with the naughty boy.
Oh god, the first toy that, and this was actually not one I bought, it was bought for me. I was, however, the one that picked it out. And it turned out I was a stupid. I was 19 years old. And I didn't
What's
see a
that? A
sizing
teenager being stupid.
I didn't see a sizing chart, so I just figured, I mean, I can go with the small. It's fine. I'm just starting out. I really don't have that much experience with things being crammed in there, so uh, this one's got a knot. I'm fairly certain it's gonna be. It looks like it's a fair size. Week later, it comes in, and I realize it is one, too soft because I assumed anal. I'm gonna want something soft because I'm gonna want a little bit of give. And two, it's about 4.5 inches maximum usable length, not included, if even that. it is small. It can fit from the base of or from one end of the palm of my hand to the end of my fingers. It's small, and it's too soft.
This is a this is the point where I will bring up, because I have a story that is quite similar to his. Generally, they have most of these websites that are selling these things nowadays, instead of having a firmness chart per se, they have samples
Yeah.
that you can buy. And it's just three innocuous round discs that are
Mm-hmm.
the samples of the textures of their silicone. Generally, it's, light, medium, and firm.
Yep.
Very important. Do yourself a favor. If you're actually interested in a company's product, but you're not sure, not, not sure which one to go for, just order the sample.
Order the samples. They're like $5, if even that. I've seen companies selling them for 50 cents.
They're not expensive. They're entirely affordable because the company wants you to get these things, and they ship out very quickly. They generally ship out faster than any order you ever place.
Oh god, yeah. The reason being is they want you to be comfy with the dick that you fucking buy from them, because if you're not, chances are you're not gonna buy from them again, because a bad experience with a dick usually doesn't make you want to go back to the person that dick was created by.
It, that's no joke. And he went ahead and told you the story of the boxy. I will go
Yep.
ahead and tell you the story of the naughty boy, which was not my first toy. It was not my second toy. I think it was my fourth or fifth toy, is the statement here. And the entire purpose of it, the way they advertise it, and I'm not going to drop the Etsy name of the store because overall they're a good company. It is just this one toy that I bought from them they don't offer a firmness chart. They don't have many penetratable toys as an option. They mostly sell the accoutrement necessary for using toys. Like they sell a double-ended suction cup worth every penny. Not gonna lie,
He's
100% would buy again.
he's very much showed me this suction cup. I'm planning to get a couple of them.
They're good. And they have a sizing chart for the suction cup. So if you have a small toy, it'll fit on there. If you have a big toy, they have a bigger one. Very much worth its price. But I went ahead and bought one of their insertable toys. And the first time I used it, the thing was so soft that I was trying to figure out the entire purpose of it is a size up, basically a sizing up butt plug. Every bump you take is a size larger. I was trying to
Yep.
figure out how to take the next bump up when I realized I was pushing the flared base against my butthole. The flared base, another piece of advice.
We'll get to
If
that
you're
in a minute.
buying a if you're buying a butt toy, make sure it has a flared base.
We'll explain why in a minute. Continue with your story.
The realization that I had gotten so far on this thing and was trying to get the next size up, which was the flared base, into myself was because it was so soft I hadn't felt anything up to this point.
That's bad.
You've touched this toy, Kit. How soft was it?
Uh, Wait, is this... We're talking about the one that looks a little bit like a thinner version of one of those, ring toys where it's big ring, smaller ring, smaller ring, smaller ring, smaller ring, smaller ring.
Like a sexualized version of that toy
Yeah, thinner.
that everyone listening has played with when they were less than 3 years old. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, no, that thing is way too soft.
It
I
there
could
is
I could squeeze that together with my toes. That should never have been in a butthole.
mm-mm. No. It was it's just way too soft. And once again, I won't say what it is a store on Etsy that if you go and look for adult toys, I'm sure you will find them very quickly. And they sell excellent products,
That is
just
a
not their insertables.
that is a softness
They're
meant
too soft.
for a person who you cannot pull a fucking sewing pin out of their ass with a John Deere tractor. That's what that softness is for.
Yeah.
Only people that would
Actually, yeah,
actually feel that are the people that would have to sit there and, shove their fingers up their ass while inserting this thing because they would need the pressure just to get past the first ring. But can't manage to take anything harder because my tender butthole.
that is actually an excellent point there of Gee, Kit, are all people made the exact same and as such there is a standard starting size for butt toys?
Oh, hell no.
Not even close.
No, I'm sorry. I've met people that could take a fucking chance their first time around. A giant red and black anger lizard chance their first time around with next to no effort and only the minimal amount of lube. And then I've met the people that cry when you try to stick a pinky in their ass.
I have thoughts on both styles of people. I am not going to come up with my thoughts in this podcast because there's no reason for it.
No,
We're
no.
trying to have a nice, fun podcast.
The point is, I've met pretty much everyone in between.
Yes,
I've
and
I've seen those two extremes. Then again, I've also seen somebody who, after a year, was able to go rosebudding like a pro. So,
you care to explain that to our listeners?
um, you know what? You guys are brave enough to listen here to what the fuck we're saying. I'm gonna say Google it.
You're mean.
Oh no, no, seriously, don't actually Google it, guys. Rosebudding is when you have taken something so big that you are essentially shitting your own ass out. It's anal prolapse.
It is anal prolapse without being so extreme to the point that you literally have to qualify it as anal prolapse.
Yeah. And some
It,
people are into this sort of thing and consider it an art form.
there are full-on kits you can do to help you achieve this thing.
There are
It,
machines you can
yes,
buy that are considered sex toys. And by the way, if you think you're going to be into this, don't buy one of these toys as your first fucking toy, because you'll never
no,
be able to get another toy into your asshole afterwards
that is
without
an
the risk of your asshole coming out when you try to pull it back out.
that is an excellent point. If you think this is, if you have read erotica or seen porn of this and you think, oh yeah, I'm into that, I want to be able to do that. No, don't start there.
There are
It,
legitimate there are legitimate porn stars who got involved in this particular type of porn and regretted it because they could never have anal sex properly after that because it would eventually just devolve into somebody chewing on a pink sock.
you had to use that phrasing.
Yes, I did.
Anybody
Oh,
listening to this, go up to anyone you know who has either worked in a prison or has been in prison. Hopefully, most of you don't know either of these type of people. But
or
if you
go
do,
up to
go up to
somebody
them.
who's worked in the porn industry.
That's the third one, but I kind of assumed based on what you had said that people would assume.
Yeah.
We all know what assume spells out.
Yes.
But go up to someone who has been in prison or has worked in a prison. I have worked with both of these people at the same time, I might add, and someone brought up the term pink sock, and both of them immediately went, ha ha, oh.
Yeah. There's uh
I feel we've gotten slightly off topic.
a little bit, but you know what? It is kind of on topic because this is the kind of thing you could do to yourself if you decided to go and try to be a size queen on day one.
That's, oh yeah, the entire purpose of this. Don't be a size queen on day one.
Even the
If
mightiest of size queens that can take the biggest skyscrapers started off with a thimble.
most of them, yes.
Oh. So, best advice we could give if you are going for your first toy, do not let your eyes be bigger than your asshole. uh, very much choose something that is reasonably sized, and I don't mean reasonably sized as in you're thirsty, I can take it mentality. No, look for
No,
something reasonably sized. If you're questioning what that is, put your index or not index, your ring finger and your middle finger together. It should be no bigger than that in width. Like side by side, it should be no bigger than that in width because anything bigger, you're risking something.
can't deny that. That is a fair statement.
And realistically, if you do take something that size and you realize this is too small, I don't feel full. Usually the ones that are that big around, they're that size, they're cheap. You're buying like a $20-$30 dildo at that point. Meaning you haven't broke the bank, you can take the next step up. But
You're
be
showing your
safe.
age there, sir.
What?
It's more like $30 to $40 these days.
No, dude, we found ones that are about that big around last night when we were looking at dicks on the internet that were 17.99.
Yeah, made out of PVC.
No, the ones I was looking at that actually had knots, some of them were silicone. The
No
PVC
shit,
ones were fun, but still.
you saying we found them. You found them. You were looking at them. I was reading up on the horribly dismissive statements whoever wrote those articles was making about other people's kinks.
That and we did have a good giggle at the rodent that sucks your clit. It is a form of sex toy for those of you who do not have a schlong or Well, yeah, those of you who do not have a schlong that is designed to pull air in, and from what I've heard, I do not have one myself, so I can't really tell. I've heard it sounds, or heard it feels absolutely phenomenal on a clit. Don't have one myself, so I'll never know. But the one we were looking at just so happened to look like a pink squirrel, or a purple squirrel with neon pink eyes.
How could you know what color the eyes were? They were squinted shut.
They were squinted, they weren't squinted shut. There were little lines to show the squinted eyes. The lines were pink.
I would like to jump back to something real quick here. Uh, the fact that you said we found certain toys that were 17.99 and the like. Fact of the matter is, generally speaking, with sex toys, you get what you pay for.
That too. And this is one of those things. If you do want to get a cheap toy, expect that it's not going to last. If you're not certain this is what you're into, if you're not certain this is what you want, but you still want to explore, go with a cheap toy. But understand, it's not going to last. It is meant to be a, is this my size? Is this my thing? Okay, cool. This was fun. Let's go for something a little sturdier. Cheap toys are not meant to be lifelong companions that you can put in yourself dozens of times over the years. No,
And down
they're,
to your children if you want.
yeah, let's hand down the collection to your kids when you finally die. It's there's a thing to be said about dildos as heirlooms. This is a thing that I have a worry that might actually happen in the furry community. But we'll get to that in a different episode. But the cheaper ones are meant to be just that. This is my first toy. I don't want to break the bank on it because I don't know if this is what I'm doing, or if this is what I like, or if this is the right size, the right firmness. Is this too big? Is it too small? Go for cheap to start. If you really like it and you find your size, I've got a dick that's $215.
I'm trying to think what my most expensive one is. I'm fairly certain it's the Bad Dragon.
I have somewhere, and I've not actually seen it in a couple years. I have a jade dildo.
As in made out of the jade stone?
It, no, there was
Okay.
an old company called Jade Sex Toys.
Okay.
It looks like jade. It feels like jade. It's actually a form of it's synthetic stone.
I'm concerned by this statement.
They're also nearly unbreakable. Me and my buddy tested one of these by hitting it with a sledgehammer, and it almost didn't break.
I'd
It
like to
is
point out I'd
yes.
like to point out the big issue with stone toys. The reason why I immediately asked, is it made of jade?
Oh, jade's
There was
fragile as
a
shit.
number one, jade is fragile as shit. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Number two, most stone things, which you should be aware of, Mister. What was it? Ceramic.
Yes.
Not necessarily fragile, but brittle. And the bigger issue is porous.
Yep. This one is fucking high gloss polished. It was it was designed as a sex toy with a synthetic material that mimics stone, but is about as rigid and sturdy as steel. And
Which is all
hence why
fine.
it's 215 fucking dollars. It's it's an expensive one. It's one of the nice ones that looks a little bit more like it should be in a glass case somewhere as a icebreaker piece on some rich fuck's living room counter, or living room like coffee table in the living room.
Personally, I would go with obsidian, but that's because I'm psychotic.
Yeah, no, I liked green. Like I liked the look of jade. They had obsidian, they had jade, they had
Kit, are you still there? Because you just
yeah.
roboted down.
as I was saying, hopefully that didn't pick up on the recording, but can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So as I was saying, they had obsidian, they had jade, they had opal, they had dozens of different stone types. They even had one that looked like it was made of ruby.
Fancy.
Uh but it was this is also, by the way, a sex toy that I bought when I was like 21, 22. It was a while
Ah,
ago.
yes, young, dumb, and full of cum that you desperately needed released.
Actually, at that point, there was a remarkable lack of being filled with cum because I had just started a long distance relationship.
I, I feel as though you misunderstand the young, dumb, and full of cum statement.
Oh,
It does not have to be someone else's. Realize this, yes?
I don't bend enough to be able to fill myself with that. So let's. By the way, yes, no, I get it. I'm joking.
This hurts me. This hurts me so bad.
Self fucking is a thing. Whatever you do, don't look it up on Pornhub, please.
I expect you to cut this out, but if you don't, whatever. I know roughly the sizes of both of our dicks. Neither one of us is either flexible enough or big enough to be able to do that.
More accurately, neither is long enough. And nah, this isn't getting cut out. Oh. I mean, we do know somebody who is long enough to be able to do that,
I if I know this person, I don't want to know.
though. Oh. You know them, I won't say who, and I'm just gonna let that fester in your brain of who has the fucking foot-long schlong.
I would make a statement here, but we're being recorded, so I won't make the statement. I'm going to hold off until the end of this podcast to start questioning.
$5 foot long. Anyways.
Uh, hmm.
And there's the sound that I make him make in almost every one of these episodes.
I come into these episodes fully expecting to have a straightforward conversation, maybe a little tangent here or there. Whenever I start talking with Kit about these things, it's immediately, well, there's a tangent you didn't see coming. In
Speaking
this
of
case,
yes,
in this case, you didn't see it coming. What are you going to tell these fine folks about the self-lubricating dildos, Kit?
wait, self-lubricating or the ones with cum tubes?
Cum tubes.
Oh yeah,
Self-lubricating is
that's another good bit of information. If you do buy your first dildo or any dildo with a cum tube, prime the fucking thing. And what I mean by this is once you've filled the apparatus, the injector, connect it to the tube, press the plunger down right up until you see the lube at the tip of the dick just start to dribble. Otherwise, you're going to get an anus full of air.
there is a statement to be made here, however. If you have not pre-lubed said dick, continue to push down the plunger and
Oh yeah.
lube said dick.
I mean, the ones with cum tubes are remarkably good at greasing a hole very specifically because you can slowly depress the plunger while when you're, you know, working yourself ever so slightly at the start. And yeah, it works quite well. By the way, speaking of things you didn't expect, I did specify that I was going to tell these fine furry fucks, uh, who probably aren't watching at this point because we've devolved into talking about porn.
We're
The
we're literally talking into the void at this point.
Probably yes, but there are probably a few that are still here listening, so I want to give you guys a little bit of a giggle. I used to make sex toys, and what I mean by this is I used to make like ceramic dicks as jokes. And one of my buddies said, "You know, I've got a kiln. We can fire one of these and see if it can work. If it works we could probably start a company." I'm thinking, okay, I'll make a ceramic dick, fire it in a kiln, get it all nice and glossy and nice and firm, and tried it out.
What was the sound you heard when you pulled it out there, Kit?
Click.
What is the worst sound you want to hear when you have anything that is ceramic or glass or stone coming out of your ass?
Well, realistically, the worst sound is screaming that you don't realize is you.
At that point, I don't think you're pulling it.
No, at that point, you're not pulling it out. It's stuck. No, the worst sound you can hear is a click or a cracking noise. I got it out, and thankfully, none of it had actually come off. But right under the gloss, I could see the ceramic cracking, and it had cracked from balls to bell end.
Now, allow me to go ahead and jump in here to the conversation Kit and I had started on with what are the materials you are after when you are buying your first, if you have not bought your first. Once again, if anyone's still listening to this,
Don't buy
hi, how's
ceramic.
it going? Don't buy ceramic. Glass is a dangerous game to play, but at
Very.
the same time, if you're into temperature play, it's one of the best.
Oh god, yeah.
What? Uh, the big thing about it, what you really want for your first, the term body safe,
Yeah.
generally body safe silicone.
Yep.
Avoid PVC, avoid latex. There's
Avoid PVC or latex. Just latex is fun. Avoid PVC at all fucking costs, unless of course you like the smell of decay.
there it is. What they don't tell you about PVC is the fact that it the phrase I used earlier, porous as fuck.
It holds on to smells, and trust me, the first time you use a PVC sex toy, if you are shoving it in your ass, the entire room that you store the box that you're holding this thing in is going to smell like your colon.
There are some people who are into that. I, for one, am not.
PVC holds smells too easily. It is not a good thing. For
No.
a majority of people, you don't want to have to explain why your bedroom smells like the inside of your butthole.
There's also a big reason people who are into PVC play of wearing full PVC suits generally coat the entire thing in baby powder and
Yep.
basically Astroglide.
Yep.
You, you,
But
you, but details.
details. But we are reaching the end of our time, so this has been Kit and Rick, and bye bye.
Total